and will fall down. Claire now being rooted up. Can they burn him down? No, none of the carries are hitting him, and they just destroy the tank, and this will be Legacy running over the top of Avant Gaming. And in they go on to Claire, trying to blow up the big threat. He says, bring it on, boys, I'm going forward. We'll go into Zonya's, and Blinky is dead. Pabu on the back line is looking for something, but he will join his AD carry in the death chamber, and now Legacy marching forward. And it took all 5 games, but at the end of the day, Avant Gaming are going to be relegated to finishing 5th, and Legacy will advance to take on Order tomorrow. That's going to be a big knock up onto Swift. He can't go Mega, he will get taken down, and Raze gets tagged, has to flash. You can see FBI flashing forward. Double kill for FBI. The Caitlyn is massive. Hall on the forward got it. Destiny just gets blown up. He is no longer in this hemisphere. Raze will join him in the death chamber. Goodbye, Babip. Raze goes in, gets stunned, gets blown up. Tally on the back line. Uses that stopwatch you talked about. Picks up Ryoma. Swiffer picks up 1 kill. He will find his revenge. Order will pick up the 2-1 victory over the Chiefs.
Gets exploded. Hook there on the Juju's been thrashed. Cannot defend her. I cannot believe.
It's gotta be the game.
I can let it
Mickey Well gets in behind him, trying to turn it his radiant wave onto everyone. Triple kill for Radiant and Mickey Well, last man standing. It's a slugfest. Double kill, triple kill, double kill, quadra kill, double kill, triple kill. My God, that was amazing.
Hooks on, Big Swift has gone Mega, but they killed us apart. Can't connect the chain, and Destiny, Hook is on, Swiffer is dead, Ray locked down Raze, Trippies gets that kill, and Spurs is stuck between the entire Wolfpack. Double kill for Fantix, they're running towards the Nexus.
Good afternoon, OPL fans, and welcome to day 2 of the Gauntlet. We're about to watch Order Melbourne take on Legacy Esports, who were able to run versus Avant Gaming last night. It took them all 5 games, but in the end, they did book their date today. I'm Jake Spawn-Type here. Joining me is Bryce, Agent Paul for day 2 of the Gauntlet. And yesterday, it was a long one, but in the end, Legacy triumphed.
It absolutely was. It was exactly what we expected out of those two teams. Very bloody, very messy games. Eventually, Legacy, with 2 pretty convincing wins at the back end of the series, do take it. And AV, once again, unfortunately, 5th place.
Yeah, perennial 5th place finishes. I mean, 3 splits in a row. It looks like that is what is going to be their destiny. But let's just bring up the schedule onto your screen so you can see exactly what we were talking about. As Bryce already mentioned, 3-2 for Legacy Esports. Avant Gaming really have to go back to the drawing board now, you would expect, with that lineup. Order versus Legacy today to book their spot against the Chiefs tomorrow, of course. Direwolves sitting back, relaxing. Next Saturday, 31st of March, 5 p.m. grand final. Whichever team runs the distance will be able to go there. But today, it's got a little bit of an extra twist because Rift Rivals is also up for grabs. Whoever wins this match, this best of 5, is guaranteed a Rift Rivals.
Yeah, 3 out of 5 members of the Order lineup have been before. Legacy, of course, they've been as well. So, I mean, I myself haven't, but yeah, it's up for grabs,
I didn't go either. I did it from here.
Yeah, true. It was actually me and you.
Yeah, it certainly was.
We are back at it again. But to recap what we saw yesterday, Legacy taking on AV. First 2 games were very back and forward. I call them games of tennis, just throws here and there. But then Legacy, game 3, absolute shellacking. And then AV turn it around. But in the last game of the day, Legacy finally get the edge. And yeah, now facing, I feel like, a bigger opponent in Order today.
And I think an interesting thing that we have to talk about is that for the first couple of games, nothing changed. Like, pick bands were the same. We saw exactly the same style of gameplay. It was just a different victor each time. But eventually that tournament meta came in. And we talk about this a lot. All of a sudden, Swain probably shooting up in priority. Rise maintaining priority. You know, potentially 80 carries being deprioritized because we saw the Zyra Khan. It didn't look all that good. Ezreal was picked a lot. Varus was picked a lot. I mean, not really that much of a difference.
Speaking of things that were picked a lot, Ornn was played as well. And in the Legacy versus AV series from throughout the year, really, that's been big priority. But yesterday, we did see all 5 Rise games, every single game. And then going up stylistically, I feel like yesterday, the 2 teams were very similar. We talked about them being fairly reactive for the most part, and they don't make a lot of proactive moves. We're making a few memes here and there about just don't pull the trigger.
Don't do anything.
Like, they just play in the scaling game. That's what we saw in Game 5 when it got to the clincher there. But up against Order today, I feel like they're just the complete opposite. They're a team that, like, top lane, they're going to pick Sion. Jungle, they pick Zac. Mid lane, they play a lot of Galio, Zyra Khan, Thresh, Alistar in the bottom lane. They pick tons of CC. And they just want to go in all the time, even if they're losing.
Yeah, they certainly push the tempo. They have played 2 games that kind of bucked that trend in the Anivia game last week, and the fast push comp that they ran week 2 or 3 versus Sin Gaming with the Janna Caitlyn lane. However, every other game we have seen, this is a team that went behind, looked frustrated, went ahead, pushes the tempo. I think they're still 100% in games that they're ahead at 15 minutes. They are just a very... aggressive lineup.
Yeah, and you mentioned the word frustrated, right? I feel like we saw that in the last time these 2 teams faced off, because Legacy actually got the victory in a 2-1 over the lineup of Order. In Game 1, Order looked very convincing, but as the series went on, I feel like the frustration set in. That's something we've seen from a few of these players from series past. They picked the Galio, the Olaf, Spooks, and Swiffer, and they were kind of Spooks was running into team fights 1v5, and Swiffer wasn't even in range, so these uncharacteristic mistakes, and I feel like frustration and desperation kind of kicked in. But then the next week against Chiefs, it completely turned it around with the Anivia.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a big question of which Order shows up. Also a question of what Legacy we see as well, particularly their jungler, Sybil. And to maybe get some more thoughts on this matchup, let's throw it over to Laura and Juves.
Thank you very much, guys. Today I am joined once again by the man, the myth, the legend, Juves. Thank you so much for coming back today.
I'm glad to be back. It was a Ripper series yesterday, and I'm hoping for a even better series today.
And there's a bit on the line with Rift Rivals up for grabs. You obviously went to Rift Rivals as well.
Yeah.
Ejim didn't get to go. But
yeah, I heard Ejim say he didn't get to go, and I just giggled a little bit because I have been, for those of you who don't know. Bryce. So yeah, no, Rift Rivals is good fun. Like it's like you really want to do your region proud, and it's like the teams do work together. So it's one of those things where like everyone's going to be killing themselves to get there.
Well, it'll be exciting to see who gets through to that today. So let's take a look at the teams. We have Order going up against Legacy. And this is the first time we've actually seen Order compete in a best-of-5 as a team. The team is made up of players that have had a lot of experience competing in the OPL Gauntlet before. So I have a feeling that maybe they'll go a bit better against Legacy in a best-of-5 than they did in a best-of-3 previously. But if we take a look at Legacy, their series against Avant did, as we saw, go to all 5 games. Raid definitely stepped up, and Claire had a banger of a game on Swain in Game 2. But maybe there's a chance that the team is feeling a bit fatigued after what was such a long series.
It kind of feels like that Order team's like an old man's home at the moment. They've probably got the most Gauntlet games between them. Like mid lane's got a lot of Gauntlet games, jungle a lot. Everyone, bot lane's got. Oh my! It is actually. I'm not gonna say it's an old man's team. But no, luckily they're still a very good team. Whereas like Legacy, on the contrary, they're like a new team. They don't have many. They have some. I think they have debutants in the Gauntlet actually, and so I think that them playing the game against AV and winning was beneficial for them in terms of getting comfortable with the feeling of Gauntlet, the setup, the nerves and everything. And it could be beneficial for them of actually playing that extra game.
Juves, I heard you have a very interesting theory about Order and Legacy, and maybe a bit of betrayal happening behind the scenes.
So my theory is that Tim Carbon Wendell retired, went behind the scenes, and now he's in his like little office behind the scenes, and he's thinking like, how can we like derail Order, because they've been deemed the super team, right? And so what I think is they're like, all right, Choo-Choo's, long-time Legacy member, you're going to go coach Order, apply for coach, get coach, infiltrate the database. He knows everything that they're going to do. He's probably told them a few bad things to do, bad habits. And now Legacy know their pick band, they know everything. And to top it off, he's like, you know what, for good measure, Tally, go over to Order as well. Play top lane. So there's going to be big pressure on him to play well today, otherwise Tim Wendell's going to be getting a few phone calls like, what have you done, mate? What have you done? So I've just outed him. And it's going to be interesting to see if my theory comes to light.
I want to hear what Jake has to say about that as well.
Jake's probably sweating now that he's heard that. He's just like, who have I hired? What have I done? They should have had they should have vetoed this. They should have had a stronger processes in place, not hire Legacy members. Because now look where we are, guys. Look where we are.
Well, Jubes, with that theory, what do you think this series is going to be?
I'm going to say it's Order 3-1. But I reckon if it goes to 5 games, it could be a Legacy win.
Could be a Legacy win.
Yeah, so Yeah, I mean, I feel bad because I'm actually good friends with Jake, so I shouldn't have said that. Now,
I'm going to go against you. I think it's going to be a 3-2 win to Order. But throughout the day, we want to find out which 5 players you would like to draft into a fantasy team. There is a catch, though. They can't be from a Gauntlet team.
and there can't be 5 of me because we all know you would pick me in 5 roles.
Yeah.
So make sure you don't do that because it's really not fair, is it?
It's not fair to everyone
No,
else.
it's not.
Definitely not. So you can draft from Bombers Tectonic or Sin Jubes. I want to know who your fantasy team would be. And you can't say it's the current Sin lineup.
I'm going to get a LOL sleeping in top lane. And me, jungle, of course. Mid lane, I'm going to get Shock because I do want to play with an Urgot. Like, I really want to play with Urgot one day. And then I reckon he's just going to TikTok Shock around the clock. So that's good. My Eddie carry is going to be... I'll keep Sin bot lane. I'll keep Dream and Kuden. Yeah? And,
that's fair.
And we'll go with that because they got the synergy there already. And that's a roster. I'll tell you what. We could do things with that team.
You'd be in the Gauntlet.
I'm not poaching on broadcast, by the way. Just making that very clear. But Shock, later, message
All
me.
right. Well, that's Juice Fantasy Team. Remember to send yours in to us on Facebook or Twitter using the hashtag #IamOPL. And if your team is featured today, you will win yourself a mystery skin, Jubes. Thank you so much for your theory
Do I
and
win a skin too?
insights. No, you do
Ah,
not. But
I'm
to
not
get
playing anymore.
this series started, let's hand it back over to Jake and Bryce.
Thanks so much, Laura. And always interesting to hear from Jubes.
I feel like Juves jungle, like, yeah, okay. Juves plays a little bit of Rise. Yeah, maybe you can have a team with 2 Juves, but he's saying like 5, like 80 carry Juves. That is garbage.
Support
like,
Juves, I have also seen run it down a couple of times. However, let's get straight into the lineups. So starting on the blue side, it is going to be the boys from Order. Melbourne, Tally is their top laner. Spooks is their jungler. Swiffer is their captain and mid laner. FBI and Rogue, 2 halves of the most dangerous bottom lane in the league. And of course, Choo Choo's is their coach. They're going up against Legacy Esports. They fly as one. Unfortunately, a loss for the Adelaide Crows last night in the football as Essendon was able to pick up a victory. Mimic is their top laner. Civil is their jungler. Claire and Raid are their 2 carries. And Decoy is their support, of course. Soul Strike's going to be their coach. For those that don't know, I am a massive Essendon Football Club fan. So that one felt bloody good.
Okay, you're going to get the advantage yesterday and then the advantage today. And someone I kind of want to highlight, we talked about briefly, is the jungle position. I feel like Spooks touted as one of the best junglers in the region. And then last time these 2 teams faced off, this was kind of the rise of Sybil, where we saw him on the Kha'Zix.
Absolutely.
First game, Sejuani, real rough. Game 2, Game 3 on the Kha'Zix. Game 2, literally just solo coloring for Legacy.
That was the best games I've honestly, and like as the Order GM, maybe not the time I wanted to see Sybil play them, but probably the best games that he's played in 18 months. Like, to be honest, like all of last year, the first split of this year, the games against Order, like you could not fault Game 2 and 3's performance.
Absolutely, and then coming into yesterday, we were highlighting him as probably the player that underperformed the most on the Legacy lineup. He had a really rough series. Was playing a bit of interesting drafts around the Legacy matchups as well. Played 3 games of Rek'Sai.
Yeah, the Rek'Sai was real interesting because I was talking to Spooks about it, and he said that he thinks that if you ever find the Olaf on equal footing, you can win with Red Smite. But the problem was he just fell down 2 camps every single time, so we never found him on equal footing. So potentially a tempo issue there for Sybil that hopefully Soul Strikes can walk him through how the matchup goes. And, you know, if they do play it again, I expect better things.
He did win 2 of those games. Of course, lost 1 of them. But we're into the draft already. All the bands, and that's a Swain lock-in.
Yeah, it certainly is. So Varys, Talia, as well as Rise taken away. And we're going to see Claire on a different champion because I think he played 3 Rise, 2 Swain yesterday.
Oh, he played 1 Corki game as well, too. Yep.
So it's going to be Galio as well as Alistar and Zaya picked up. Immediately, we get the hover out of Sybil, and I would not be surprised to lock this one in.
I would, honestly. All of the junglers are available. They have the Olaf, they have all the tanks, but no, it will just be the Kha'Zix. So we have to mention Rise, very high priority yesterday. Of course, the Swain was notably one of the answers, and Swiffer has played Anivia into this one before. So interesting that Order do ban that one away, but they get themselves the first lock-in of the Swain.
And I would be interested to hear your thoughts. Is this a genuine flex pick for Order, or do you think that it's going mid lane 100%?
I feel like it's a genuine flex pick. You don't really just blind pick your mid laner on blue side. Red side is the counter pick, so doesn't make a lot of sense to only be pigeonholed into one role. If you're going to pick up something like the Swain, it's very easy to be able to transition it between those 2 lanes and makes Legacy's draft a little bit harder.
Yeah, it certainly does. Immediately, however, this is a change-up from Legacy. It's going to be an early lock-in 80 carry, which means that Order right now do have priority on potentially another solo laner. Jungle support, both up and available. Skarner would make a lot of sense, and I would not be surprised to see them follow it up with something like a Braum, given the potency that it has versus both the Kha'Zix as well as the Jhin.
Yeah, not to mention Ornn still on the table and things like that. So it does be sorry, does be, it will be the lock-in of the Braum. Of course, Xayah was banned away, so no Xayah Rakan shenanigans available. We saw Raid have a couple of good games on Jin yesterday. I feel like the second one notably, but overall he's someone that we have kind of slept on throughout the split. A bit underperforming here and there, but definitely yesterday one of the members of Legacy that played the best.
Yeah, absolutely, and we see immediately Claire go back to an old faithful in the Azir. This is one of the old school comps that used to be played.
Yeah.
When you evolve the W on Kha'Zix, Jin can follow up very well with the Curtain Call, as well as the Deadly Flourish, and then it's very hard to collapse on him through an Azir and all those Sand Soldiers.
Not to mention, you just have so much range. If you're rooting people at range with the Jin, then suddenly, if your mid lane is Azir, you just have so much reach, the ability to burn someone down. Of course, Order do have a fairly tanky lineup already. If that Swain goes mid, they can have a lot of tanks. They got jungle tank support, top lane potentially as well.
And the top laners have just been absolutely ignored so far. I feel like Order will probably hit Taric as well as another melee support, try and get, you know, maybe a Morgana or something like that onto Raid, because I think that that's something that we've seen, but it certainly isn't potent against multiple forms of CC. Sure, maybe it beats the Skarner or it beats the Braum, but when you got Skarner, Braum, Swain all laid into the same comp, that Black Shield just isn't going to be enough.
You have to play absolutely perfectly, so we see if that one does come in. Also, Morgana, pretty good with Jin, of course. Burn the WW.
You like that.
Double combo and use insta-root if you are well prepared, but no, it's just going to be the Cho'Gath banned away from Legacy.
Yeah, very interesting. Cho'Gath, one of those picks that, honestly, I didn't have any priority on, and then we saw one game of it out of Pabu and perpetual bans for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
GP also gets banned away from Mimic, something that we've seen a lot, honestly, throughout the OPL season.
And this is pretty weird, to see the second phase bans and neither team is actually pinching one pool.
Yep.
They both split the bans, of course, support top and then 80 carry tops respectively, so a lot of options are available in the top lane. Legacy do have first pick, and it will just be the Tahm Kench.
That makes a lot of sense, because all of a sudden we're talking about, you know, Morgana can't nullify everything. Tahm Kench actually can, because you just pick them up out of the CC. Tahm Kench now becomes a target, so only one QSS needs to be invested into.
Yeah, they do lock in something like the Lucian. Suddenly Tahm Kench has a very rough laning phase. Of course, Legacy are the only team in the OPL to have played the Lucian Braum in 2018. This would be a pretty brave pickup here by Order, but no, just going to go back to the old favorite of the Ezreal. Both these 80 carries have played a significant amount of Ezreal. FBI, probably one of his best champions.
Absolutely, and it's the best champion into Kha'Zix because you naturally build armor. So you're just able to continually exert pressure on the Kha'Zix. You can go stuff like Ninja Tabbies as well as Iceborne Gauntlet if you would like. It just means that you're the safest 80 carry versus an assassin.
And this is kind of the trap you fall into with a very early blind pick Kha'Zix. Suddenly, if Ezreal's not really a target, you look at the lineup of Order as they lock in the Scion.
There isn't a target.
4 other tanks. Like, maybe you can assassinate Swain early game, but once he starts getting the Abyssal Mask, potentially going into the Zhonya's, things like that, he doesn't stack a lot of armor, but he stacks a lot of health.
I mean, if this is an AD top laner, he can honestly go the Frozen Heart route. Yeah, and he's going to be against a Jin as well as a Kha'Zix.
Maybe a Poppy as well.
Poppy. I mean, a legitimate option there for him. However, it is going to be both front-to-back comps. This is interesting because this isn't what we saw out of the Legacy necessarily yesterday. More 1-3-1. So this is more of a 1-4 feel.
Yep, going back to the Poppy. I feel like a few top laners in the league have said Mimic's Poppy is absolutely insane. Very good at that one. So nice to see him go back to that pick there.
Have we seen it yet in the OPL?
I don't think we have in the OPL.
Okay.
I feel like Chippies is the one that's played it.
He's played it, for sure.
And Mimic, I'm like 95% sure we have not seen it just yet. But the rest of the champions across the board, I feel like Tahm Kench, Decoy, they're a bot lane that wants to play backwards. Of course, Ezreal Braum is nothing to be scoffed at in laning phase. You have a lot of outplay potential, and I feel like FBI and Rogue are kind of a dynamic duo in the bottom lane that love that outplay potential. They love the Xayah Rakan, the Thresh lanes, the skill matchups that they constantly find themselves in.
Absolutely. So we will be going on to Summoner's Rift for game number 1. It's going to be Scion, Skarner, as well as the Swain, Ezreal Braun taking on a Poppy, Kha'Zix, Azir, Jin, as well as a Tahm Kench. 2 front-to-back comps. Globals, however, for that man on your screen in Decoy. And they've already had their warm-up games. They've blown out the cobwebs. You've run a Gauntlet before, Ejim. You've also not run a Gauntlet.
Okay.
I was going to ask you a genuine question if you just want to laugh. I was going to say, how much is it playing the day before? How much does that help for the momentum?
Well, they've already got over the hurdle, right? Because playing game after game, obviously the downside is if you lose, you don't make it to the next day. But suddenly, they've got a win in their back pocket. Sure, it was hard. Probably harder than they would have liked against AV, but suddenly they're into the second day. Juice was saying it on the couch. They're not really fatigued just yet. So they should be coming in with more practice and more preparation than Order into this game.
Absolutely. So let's get on to Summoner's Rift for game number 1. It's going to be Order taking on Legacy. And to hear more about their draft, let's check in with Choo Choo's and Laura.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Choo Choo's. Now, the last time you went up against Legacy, you dropped the series. So how has that loss helped with your preparation coming into the Gauntlet today?
It hasn't changed it too much. We respect every team in the Gauntlet. We think that this is probably the closest split of OPL. So we did notice a lot off their series against AV yesterday, but that doesn't change the way we're going to play against them today.
So Jake and Swiffer have both said that the aim for the team was to get a win in Split 2 and not necessarily Split 1. Does the rest of the team agree with that, or is everyone feeling the pressure a bit today?
I'm sure everyone's feeling the pressure. Like, we're a pretty good team. I mean, we could have done better. Like, a lot of our losses this split have been very unfortunate and disappointing. But I think we're in a good position. We've come in at a good pace, and we should be able to provide the results today.
Well, best of luck with this series, and thanks for talking to us, Choo Choo's.
No worries.
All right, so we're going to see a bit of back and forward. Choo Choo says maybe they are buying into it. You played with these players.
100%,
what are your thoughts?
they are all in. Maybe not all in, but they've definitely put their chips on the table. Bit of an evade coming out. We've seen this a few times out of multiple teams here, not necessarily with something like a Braum, more likely the Morgana, but Ezreal, very good level 1, so they get a nice little chunk.
All you're fishing for there is a free Klepto procs, because you know they're going to the buff, and at worst, you know that the jungle is going to be there. And even if you like Q and then auto-attack the jungler, you're guaranteed the Klepto, right?
Yep.
So he's hoping that he grabs a red pot and a sack of gold before he can go back to lane. Obviously, that did not happen. However,
very little downside. Spooks, of course, because of that, does not get a lead from his bot lane, so starts on the opposite side of the map. So these two junglers will end up on basically opposite sides. Tally had a bit of a rough time getting into the lane phase very early. Mimic on the Poppy, picked up the buckler, so has that shield. Nice early trade. Tally's actually gone for the Glacial. So against the Poppy, doesn't mind too much about the laning phase. Of course, that's more of a team fight summoner when you can get onto the Azir, you can get onto the Jhin, and you can stick to them just that little bit better.
Absolutely. Swiffer lands the pullback there, and Claire takes all of his health in damage. This is something that I'm very interested, because I think we've seen Claire play it well. However, that's kind of where my experience with Swain stops. So we'll be interested to track whether Swiffer, who is someone that actually takes a very long time to learn champions.
Yes,
if you've ever watched Swiffer solo queue, he picks up a champion and sucks at them.
So for a very long time, and then suddenly he's really good. There's just like a game that clicks. And obviously,
oh, he got him again. That is absolutely huge. No Ignite available for Swiffer as he's gone Phase Rush.
Yeah.
So wants to keep the TP.
Of course, both junglers are kind of around the mid lane right now. Spooks just doing his red buff, already a camp ahead of Sybil. Of course, Skarner does clear faster, but early game advantage does go over to the Bug and the Kha'Zix. Might be looking for something around mid lane, but pings are going down to the red buff.
Just got a ward. Nicely done. Spooks, does he sweep his own jungle?
Ooh, doesn't.
No, he does not, but he spots him on his exit. So we can assume that he's been spotted out here. See, Spooks has got himself a 2-camp advantage. Level 4 to level 3. However, a couple of camps left up and available for the Kha'Zix means that he'll be able to go back towards them.
Absolutely. This is kind of what we saw from Sybil yesterday, though, so potentially once again against a different team here in Order.
I think, to be fair, Machete Kha'Zix actually doesn't farm the camps as quickly as what Rek'Sai should, so I think the Rek'Sai is a little bit more inexcusable. I think Kha'Zix does get out-tempoed, but has genuine kill threat. That's what you're kind of trading for.
And that's what he was looking for, right? He walks into the bot side jungle trying to get some shallow vision to find Spooks out in his clear. Of course, went for a pretty safe, just full clear on every single one of his camps there, and of course had priority in the mid lane, and that's the big thing. Swiffer, those very nice early trades, has burnt double potions from the Azir, and Clay had to be playing back, so despite being down in CS on the Swain, had the priority around mid, so Sybil, it's much harder for him to find opportunities in the jungle like that.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Ray doing a good job of CSing in the bottom lane versus an oppressive Ezreal Braum. Top lane, Mimic is starting to get himself a lead. Claire in the mid lane has got the CS to his name, but is also starting to get very low with no potions.
Yeah, and yesterday we saw a lot of TP Corki, saw a lot of TP Rise and things like that. Of course, now on the Azir, doesn't have Spellbook, has the flash and heal. So being in this situation right now, desperately wants to be able to shove in the wave.
Gets him. That's going to be the heal out. Does Swiffer have to flash in response? No, he doesn't. So he just gets a free summoner spell. And he can teleport back to lane.
So he doesn't even look to push in the next wave. It's just too dangerous with Kha'Zix on the map, but he's going to be able to base. He might not actually have to burn the TP, because he can either TP back to the lane and then have priority immediately, or he can save that for a play in the side lanes. And if Sybil looks for a gank, he can just match the walking of the Azir. But no, it actually will be the TP back immediately. He wants the priority now.
Wants it to hit the turret, wants to deny some CS. The thing about Azir is if he ever gets rolling, is able to get ahead of the item curve. We've seen him just sit under the people's turret with that attack speed. Very hard to gank because if you get counter ganked and he shoves you into his jungler, it's just a big, bad story. Meanwhile, bottom lane, that was an eat. And there's a 10 CS advantage out of nowhere. Just must have been one dodgy trade, you would think.
Yeah,
no
well,
potions
everybody
gone.
really has most of the potions, so potentially just pressuring Raid off CS after CS, creep after creep. Haven't seen too much action down here for the most part, but you kind of expect that in a Braum versus Tahm Kench. He does dissuade a lot of that pressure, but especially when you are being shoved in, Tahm Kench really can't be the one to step up. If he gets hit by the Winter's Bite, suddenly he's in threat, so he has to play behind. And then if Ezreal can be flinging Mystic shots at you whilst you're farming the wave, that's where this sort of CS advantage comes from.
Absolutely, as we see jungle is now going to equalize in experience, however, still a camp lead for Spooks. Swiffer hits level 6 first in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Mimic in the top lane is kind of reciprocating the lead that we found on other members of Order. And that's going to be an early Ocean Dragon, which actually might help Tally out more than you would think, because he's in some trouble at the moment.
Yeah, he is. But Mimic actually committed back to the TP on the lane, right? So Tally right now has the advantage in the mid lane. Of course, Swiffer burnt his earlier, but because they have two, any action happens elsewhere on the map, Tally will be in good stead. And as you mentioned, the Ocean Drake, the regen, mana and health will kind of be able to weather the storm a little bit better, especially as Mimic's gone.
And
pretty defensive Spectre's cow.
I want to talk to you about an interesting concept, which is I think that when you are close to skill with people, it is easier to win the lane quite hard. But then at a certain point, if you're better than them, they can play defensive enough that it's really hard to like destroy them in the laning phase. So what we're seeing out of Tally is he's actually not laning versus Mimic. I know that sounds weird, but he's just hitting creeps. He's using all of his AoE. He's kind of walking in. Mimic's trying to chunk him out, and Tally's just playing the big no game. And then he walked and checked his blue buff. He walked and swept out the river. He didn't teleport back to lane when the creep wave was even frozen.
Hold
However,
that
this
maybe
time around, he's going to go for a gank. That's going to be the hammer. Flashes it, drags him back. Do they have the damage now?
He misses
the big charge, and that just might be all she wrote. Mimic will look to get out, gets slowed down. Flash isn't available, gets slowed again, cannot pick up the buckler, and the persistent damage just looks like it will be there. Can they get one more slow or one more stun? There is a slow, there is a stun. They give it over to Tally. That's first blood for Order.
It was very sketch, it was very rough, but in the end they do take down Mimic. That's the second time we've seen this. I feel like last time it was Legacy that actually mis-executed on that one, but the Sion ulti whiffs.
I've got a red
on
face
the
now as well because I was like, he's just seeding pressure. He's not going to do anything. And then Spooks is like, surprise.
Bam. Trying to turn it around. But they only burned the one flash for that one. So Spooks are kind of the guaranteed level 6 Skarner gank, unless there is a jungler around, which Sybil was kind of making his way up there, but he was not there yet.
Well, they did it at the same time that Claire was getting blue, so they knew it was going to be unanswered, and he ran as quickly as he can. That's not Sybil's fault.
And that's something that we saw Legacy do a lot yesterday against AV. They would invade the blue buff, and then when AV went for the answer, constantly they would make a play bot side. So Order coming in with a similar playbook here, but on the top side of the map, they get an advantage for Tally in a matchup. He was slowly bleeding in. As you mentioned, that does mean he catches up a little bit back in CS, but of course, still has his flash available, and he's holding his TP once again because he got to shove that wave in.
Absolutely. We see Sybil now going for a very aggressive invade on the bottom side of the map. Knows that Spooks doesn't have his flash available. Knows that... Ooh, actually, Spooks going to face check. No ulti, no flash.
Spooks playing very tentatively. He wards his red buff and then goes back to the Wraith camp. Of course, Claire has been missing the entire time, and our bot lane of Legacy is missing. So Order have to know something's up. They don't have vision, but pings are going off into the jungle right now.
Yeah, however, now we're going to have a 5-man collapse into the mid lane. You see Swiffer is not respecting this at all. Needs to burn the flash early, you would think. Goes into the crow form. Gets ulti back underneath his turret. Spooks is now here. Will have to block some shots, but that should be a survived gank.
Yeah, 5-man gank into the mid lane.
That's a lot invested for not much gained.
Swiffer did have to burn the flash at the end of that one. It does fall incredibly low, no TP, so he'll have to walk back to the lane. Sybil looking for his second contest here, but Rogue potentially is enough to steer him away.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see they had Tally's ability to TP into that lane. Swiffer definitely called off the rest of the team and said, I've kind of stuffed this one up. I'm just going to have to burn the flash in the end. And you can see he was very hesitant to, however.
Yeah, pretty late. Because you can burn that flash early knowing that the damage is going to come in the end. So you kind of get out without your flash, but you stay full HP.
You can keep your HP potentially.
But of course, the slight greed coming out of the mid laner from Order means he loses his time, his recall.
So funnily enough, I was speaking to Swiffer about Swain, and he said your first ulti is generally your best one. And the reason for that is you need stacks into your ultimate to make it worthwhile. And the first one, you've been laning, and people kind of eat your skill shots because you trade health in the laning phase. So he was saying that you're guaranteed to have all 5 stacks on your first ultimate, whereas you're not necessarily guaranteed to have it at, you know, maybe the level 16 when you're just going Baron fight after Baron fight. And you have to have a patient team is willing to let poke land from Swain. Because otherwise, he just goes into a team fight with 2 stacks and does nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to something like a Gnar, right? You have the Gnar bar building up as he's attacking creeps. Swain, of course, gets those charges from ripping people back with the passive, either hitting people with the Eye of Sauron, and potentially just takedown and kills as well. So as you see right now, sitting on absolutely 0 out of 5. So if his ulti were to be cast right now, no damage.
Can he actually cast it? I don't even actually think he can cast it with 0.
True.
However, Spook's
Literally
playing a little bit of PvE right now. He's got himself a dragon. Now he's sitting on the Rift Herald. Skarner is the best at this because there's a Spire next to both of them. However, will be checked right now by Claire. Does he call the rest of his team over? No, Claire. Just going to clear outer ward.
And that's the thing. The pink ward would have been enough to dissuade him anyway, because he's going to walk over there, place that vision, and then he can't really walk into the darkness against the Skarner, of course. Doesn't have to flash, but if he's face checking that bush, Impale hits the mid laner. No QSS this early into the game, nothing like that, so he would fall down. So Claire places the ward, immediately backs away, and the audio cue goes off, so Legacy know exactly what's happened.
And it's so far been... Oh, did he get spotted by that? Actually going to go in anyway.
Ooh,
no stacks there for Swiffer. Will not be able to... Actually does go into Demonic Ascension now, but that will be potentially a kill being picked up for Sybil. Nicely played.
Yeah, gank number 2 in the mid lane. This time they do get the kill onto the mid laner of Order. So Rift Herald goes over to them, but gold lead or gold advantage back into the favor of Legacy. Sybil trying to steal away a few camps.
Had already used that challenging smite, but Claire comes over. Spooks turns around and drags him back onto turret. That would be a sketchy play, especially with teleports wards available. They instead go on to raid. Can they tag up Decoy? They get 1, they get 2. Where is the third proc? No, they cannot find it. Creep block there. Nicely played from Decoy to save his 80 carry.
Yeah, Swifties means that he's able to get out of the back end of that one as well. Of course, TPs are still available from both top laners, so Order don't really hard commit to the play. They did have flashes to burn. They still have the Ignite, but didn't want to go too far forward on that one. They got a bit of a chunk. They burn the 8 from Decoy, and they do just back away.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of a short cooldown on the Ezreal ulti. Braum ulti is kind of their deterrent against Kha'Zix, however. So if Kha'Zix does get down into this bottom lane, especially with the curtain call available, going to be an interesting gank.
And Ezreal Braum is one of those lanes that, against something like a Kha'Zix, there's a lot of 3v2 turn potential. If you overcommit to the gank and you just go a little bit too far forward, oftentimes with a squishy jungler like Kha'Zix, Braum passive hits you, you get stunned up way too far forward, but I feel like the time negates a lot of that. As we see, Legacy do have vision of this dragon being taken away, but they can't do anything.
This is really strange from Legacy. They actually had very good priority in the mid lane. You can see Claire actually has himself a 22 CS advantage. However, they haven't been able to use that to secure them anything in terms of map advantage. They've lost a Rift Herald, they've now lost 2 dragons, and we've seen games go late, and eventually we're going to see the double Elder. And I can't wait for it personally. But if you keep giving over these kinds of advantages, double Elder will become a big deal.
Yeah, it gets scarier and scarier. Swift are going to take the brunt of that trade, but this is kind of what you expect, right? Yesterday, AV Legacy both fairly reactive, and if this was against Legacy, suddenly neither of these teams had made super proactive team plays, but Order, of course, Spooks, had just been soloing out objectives left, right, and center. There hasn't been any big kill lead going over, of course, just traded back and forth, but suddenly Order are accruing these small advantages time and time again.
Yeah, but the lane that had a huge advantage pre-6 was Swiffer. Now, due to a couple of ganks and very nice play from Sybil, he's been shut down pretty comprehensively. Hasn't even got his first item just yet. Once again, sitting on none of those soul shards, as once again, Decoy as well as Raid get tagged up. That time it will be proc, but Grey Health is a good deterrent.
Yep, just got to be able to heal that one back up a little bit in the hands of the Tahm Kench. Of course, Blue Bus will just hand it away. So, Sybil in the jungle, just kind of looking for some vision. Spooked has backed away.
And Swiffer right now needs to know that he's the target. So you look bottom lane, you have a Braum with a cloth armor, you got yourself an Iceborne Gauntlet. Not ganking that one. You look top lane, you got yourself a tanky Scion. Not ganking that one. Swiffer right now is sitting on Mercs as well as the makings of an Abyssal Mask. Does rip him back in. Potentially that's a bait though. Does Claire go for the Shurima Shuffle? Does not. Swiffer just steps up and trades.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you can see the junglers are going to go at it. Spooked does not land the stun.
Yeah.
So Sybil will win that trade.
And that's the big thing. He needed that stun to land for his lanes to be able to collapse and lock the Kha'Zix down for enough time. He still had the ulti available, but as soon as that one missed, he kind of just walks away with the
Sybil's
lower
going
health bar.
back in, searching for him. Does have vision right now. Instead, they're pinging on to the mid lane one more time.
Did that ward seem... Okay, he's going to pink it anyway, so it will get cleared out. The pink ward, of course, does not seem, even if he's invisible, because it's camouflage. It's not invisibility. So he kind of just wanders through all that one unscathed. He is still looking. This is the second contest onto the red buff we've seen so far.
I mean, it's a good contest, to be honest.
Really committed to this one, yep.
Instead, they're going to use some tempo from the Rift Herald to try and push out bottom lane. Was expiring very soon.
It's going to be the unlucky expiry Herald. Potentially just going to get one charge.
I mean, potentially not,
in the
because you can
back
see
line.
he's actually running towards the bottom lane as well right now. He will start hitting a ward.
But Tahm Kench has to be the answer. If they get onto raid, then you can get eaten up by the
This is
Tahm
four
Kench.
members
So
down
Sybil's in
here.
behind
Predator
them.
has been popped from Spooks. And you can see that they know
Raid.
that everyone is there.
That's Devour.
Charge will land on the turret.
Mimic is actually just based in the top lane.
Are they
Still
going to
has
5v5?
TP.
This is
Oh,
going
here
to
we
be
go.
the genuine 5v5. Everyone is down here. Curtain Call opens up,
cancel.
already throws the ultimate towards him. However, Mimic completes, does get eaten up, but now that's going to be Raid in trouble. Shurima Shuffle will get Tally back underneath the turret, but they've jumped onto Sybil and they're flashing after the jungler. Does manage to get himself over the wall. Tally will fall down. However, now Demonic Ascension used. Mimic gets ripped back in, and that will be a 2-for-1 trade in Order's favor.
And it's a fight on two fronts. Legacy opted into that play. Swiffer didn't even have a good TP ward, so he gets to the fight late, but two members of Legacy go down. Maybe first brick as well. Oh,
I do
FBI's
not think
very
they can
low.
go for that. FBI steps up, falls very low. Does burn a heal. I didn't see whether that was during the play. But Order do come out ahead.
That's going to be Sybil
Now,
actually going into the back line. Once again, he might
Swiffer's
find
there.
Swiffer.
He didn't burn the hop. He used the blast plant. I was going to say, that is a bold and courageous call if that was a blast plant. A hop.
Has invisibility in the bush, but as soon as he leaves that one, as soon as he gets onto the Swain, wouldn't have been able to get back. So, all things considered, slight gold lead for the Order lineup. And we're going to take this one again. I actually thought the cancel came out from him because he just disappeared under the Braum. The immediate CC chain, Skarner ulti, Braum ulti, he just gets eaten up by the time Kenshu kind of just saves his life in the front end of that fight. And look where Swiffer is right now. He's not even in the fight. And Order still, because the Legacy split up on two sides, they get to group up and they end up taking two picks.
Yeah, absolutely. Got knocked away from Mimic, by Mimic.
Oh,
that was a really nice use of the Poppy ultimate because he was certainly level 11 Swain, had 4 stacks on his souls. He was going to do work if he got amongst everyone, but wasn't able to do that because Mimic played goalie in a terrific fashion. His Poppy so far has looked good, even though he is now an 0-2-1 scoreline. I think the first death may be a bit greedy. Maybe you would say that that wasn't well played, but everything else apart from that has been nice.
Got himself the banner of command against the Scion. We've seen this been
every game.
Pretty damn effective.
Look at top lane turret. He left a banner command minion up there when he teleported. And that's why they continually brought Skarner down here because they felt they need to race.
And that was the thing. The first brick eventually does go over to Order. So they're going to get themselves a nice little chunk of gold on the back end of that one. Now 2K in the lead. 50 seconds on the next Dragon. Spooks has done a very nice job this game of taking out the objectives.
And this game, I am very curious on Raid's build because I think that against squishy members that he was playing against AV, you can make a case for Serrated Dirk into Yomus. I think against 4 genuine tanks and an Ezreal, that build is not good. You would much rather MC go Essence Reaver, be able to get himself, you know, oh, they're going to actually stun up Decoy there. It takes a lot of damage. They do not continue with that play. Unsure of where the Azir is right now.
He's looking actually for a flank of the bot lane. He's actually ahead of the jungler right now.
I mean, he is going to go so quickly down here. They have to back into Fog of War. Mimic is backing as well.
They're standing just far enough out of the tri-bush. It's not water, but if it was, they would not be spotted right now. So they're playing it pretty conservatively. They just want control around the Dragon. Curious to see which one it is right now.
It
is the Infernal. Here we go.
I mean, they're not going to be able to get Tally here in time, so this should be an
Is
Infernal Drake
Spooks
picked
is too
up.
late.
Spooks
Maybe.
is very late. Does he flash in to get it? No, he does not. Instead, they're looking for the fight. However, can they get there in time? Because Mimic is collapsing. In comes the Scion train as well. Swiffer on the back end is taking a lot of damage. Goes into Demonic Ascension, and that is huge from Tally. Double kill now picked up for FBI, and with only 30 seconds left on Baron, potentially with that triple kill, Order can now look at the big purple worm.
Legacy do get the buff, but they lose the fight in the back end. Very nice flank. You mentioned out of Tally knocks up multiple members. Order wish this was 20 seconds into the future right now. They wish they could just 5-man rush down the Baron. Of course, not spawning just yet. So a few of them, they take the tempo recalls, but they're looking for mid-turret as well.
Yeah, exactly right. So there was too long. They felt that, you know, Tahm Kench ulti could potentially get 4 members there, and they're not far enough ahead that they will look towards that. However, it is going to be nearly a 4,000 gold lead, and that's one of those situations where we critiqued Order heavily against the Direwolves, is an Infernal Drake really worth a triple kill onto an Ezreal?
Probably not right here, so we're going to take a look at it once again. Sybil did not have the flash, and Decoy kind of was stuck in a position where he was trying to save his jungler, but it was just too little too late. That knock-up, not to mention, it's not even the knock-up, the damage the Tally did on the Scion, just absurd. That completely bursts out Claire. He goes down, Mimic. Nice triple knock-up, but in the middle of 5 members, it does not really mean a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly right. And the big impressive thing there for me was the coordination behind Order's engage. Tally got there at the perfect moment with the Scion ulti. So obviously something that they are very practiced on at the moment. Swiffer in top lane brush. So genuine 1-3-1 set up for the first time. 1-4 will be the comp out of Legacy, so they have to keep the Azir mid, even though he hasn't got a turret at the moment.
But we see this time and time again, 1-4 versus a 1-3-1. The Tahm Kench is a very good tool to have when you are in the 1-4 situation. Literally the best. Means you can actually gain access to the side lanes. You do have that tempo cheat button in the Abyssal Void. You can teleport a few members around, gank the side lanes before they can expect it. But, of course, right now, Order, they do have the gold lead, they have the kill lead, and they have the dragon lead. So setting up around the Barons right now, trying to wrestle the control away from Legacy.
You can see right now Order want to make a play on the last remaining outer turret. They flash forward, and they absolutely blow up the AD carry. And now Demonic Ascension is there, and Claire will join him in the Death Chamber. That is the flash used from FBI, and both top laners potentially coming here. Flash over the wall will get Decoy's flash with 2 members dead and no teleport. Do now Order go towards the Baron.
Teleport potentially cancelled out by Tally there, maybe, but the hard commit from Order. You can tell they're all on the same page. They get that initial pick. Rogue comes flying into the back end of the fight looking for the Tahm Kench. That's going to be a TP to try and
save the mid lane
the mid turret from a Kha'Zix. That's a weird thing to see, but they want to hold on to their objectives.
I think against Azir, holding your turret so he can't shove the lane, crash tier 2, and then regain control is actually something that's really useful. We see Tally and Mimic tangoing in the top lane. Tally thinks someone's coming because Mimic's just running at him like a madman, so we'll back away. FBI now in a little bit of trouble. However, Sybil goes forward, and he just gets blown up. We'll get Eden. That was very close. Oh, FBI catches 1, catches 2, gets out of range. Where is the TK ultimate? Will go the right way. Does he have E up and available?
Cancelled it.
Actually gets a kill.
What? What is going on? FBI 6-0-2 right now. Sybil desperately wanted that kill. Maybe feeling like this game is just getting further and further out of Legacy's reach right now.
I mean, when you're playing the picks, Kha'Zix into this lineup,
you're on a small window, yes.
And 100%. I feel this is something that we saw Kha'Zix pick up 2 wins versus Order and then just perpetually hit the ban. So straight away, and this is why the blind pick was slightly strange to me, because Spooks doesn't play Kha'Zix. We saw him play it like 3 times, I think, and then he was jumping into skill shots, dying really early. Honestly, it didn't look that great. So the fact that they picked it so early really was playing into Order's hands, because they wouldn't have left it up unless they wanted to play into it.
Not to mention all the other junglers were available. Sage, Zac, Jarvan.
And this is actually just a hard commit. It's going to be 3,000 left on the Baron. Do they go for it? Actually not going to commit. They do in the end turn around and pick it back up. Now Swiffer in the back line with the rest of the lineup. One more time they turn on to Mimic, and he is just not all that tanky at this stage. Raid now going to go very low. Sybil gets picked up. Tally will be able to pick up a kill, and you can see that they're just looking to back away now. That was a very nice front-to-back fight. Delaying the recalls. Claire goes over the wall. Swiffer still
Last
here.
implant is there. They should be able to get to safety. Swiffer
they rip him back in, and that is going to be the turn. Streamer shuffle there. Sybil now very low. However, Swiffer is so healthy again out of nowhere. We'll be able to get another rip. That's going to be the double kill. And as Sybil goes over the wall, Swiffer flashes after him. That's a triple. And Baron buff, 4 kills for only FBI is definitely worth.
FBI got himself a triple. Now Swiffer has his own. Very nice play out of the Order lineup. They recognized the recall coming out of Sybil, so they burn down the Baron. Mimic, once again, good poppycopter to knock multiple members out of the fight, but the gold lead in favor of Order. They get the buff, they get the team fight. Suddenly, Legacy, you mentioned, potentially on the clock here, feeling desperate. They're just overreaching for these kills, and we're going to see it once again. It's already gone before Sybil even gets here. Swiffer does fall very low, but he does not die, so in the back end of this fight, he's healthy enough. It's a good pick on FBI. Bit of mispositioning, no flash, no heal, and Legacy do punish that one almost immediately. But here they have to back out. They've lost the Baron. You see Decoy and Mimic are literally on 2 HP, and they want no business to do with this. But Sybil, once again on this Kha'Zix, as he likes to do, trying to get into the back line. But the terrain in between Claire and Sybil is the big factor. So Swiffer can sit there, land a nice route over the wall. They pick up the kill. And at that stage, there's just no punish. They're just going to chase them down. Decoy dies. Sybil gets picked up at the back end. And Legacy fall even further behind.
And we had the conversation yesterday, as we just see Swiffer pick up that triple, of what the difference between, you know, the pure tank versus a hybrid tank is. And we haven't got a pure tank here. Tally has certainly gone Abyssal Mask as well as the Righteous Glory. However, because he's going towards that Warmogs now, he's up against Mimic, who got himself a banner, which is okay. But once again, is more for the passive. As they go forward, they're looking for Mimic. They grab him, they drag him back in. And Tom Kench is not going to be close enough. Very good tackle. Gets him back within range, but he does just get his support blown up. That's going to be a big deal, as no time Kench means that this is now very dangerous.
Just stands and delivers with a bit of damage, but you're talking about the tankiness. Decoy, because he goes Guardian, because he recognizes the potency out of Ezreal Braum in the lane, he respects the damage there. He can't go Spellbook, so he doesn't have cleanse at this point, so he's a tank that's already behind because Legacy are losing.
Mimic looking for
Has
Swiffer
to pay
here.
the QSS tax as well, so he's not as tanky as he'd like to be, so he falls down.
Yeah, and Swiffer's actually keeping 3 people busy in mid lane. He is huge. 4, 1, and 5. They take the base turret. Claire still does a lot of damage.
He does.
With that 2-item spike.
Not to mention he's gone, the Morello's there.
Yeah, penetration's very good.
Makes a lot of sense. He wants to burn through the tankiness of the auto lineup. We've talked about time and time again. They don't get any inhibs, but they get 2 inhib turrets.
Swiffer's a bit of a HP tank, so Morello and Omicron going to be great there. But I think there's an elephant in the room which we haven't addressed, which is right now there's a 12,000 gold lead.
Yep.
Which
that's a big one.
Honestly, is like 4,000 gold on the 80 carry.
That's pretty nutty. About 3,000 in the mid lane as well. Jungle 2,000 behind. Tally has a 1.2k lead, but not the biggest lead in the top lane, but he doesn't need to be. He just needs to be a front line. He needs to be landing CC, and the carries is where the damage at. That's where the gold is at. FBI Swiffer do so much, and just the rest of the members of Order look clean.
Yeah, exactly right. FBI goes for a Bloodthirster, an item we do not see often. It is a luxury item, but with Overheal as well as Bloodthirster, his health pool is going to be quite absurd.
Because he will take damage in a fight, right?
Yep.
Dancing Grenade from Raid. Claire can hit the back line from
Gets
wherever he
outranged
sits.
by everyone.
Yeah, that's it. And especially given his penchant for dashing forward in the fights, we've already seen, cost him his life once. That's his only death around the Baron Pit. But honestly, with this sort of gold lead, with the Braum passive coming left, right, and center, he's probably going to be doing it again. So the lifesteal, the double lifesteal that he's invested in, going to make a lot of sense.
And I think that at a certain point, when you are this far ahead, playing aggressive is the right call. Because your damage, if you land it, and FBI more often than not does land it, is going to outpace the enemy's damage. You've got 7 kills. You're absolutely fed. So I don't mind seeing the aggressiveness.
Not to mention, in a best of 5, there's something to be said about mentality. And if you come out game 1 absolutely swinging, right? Like, you don't play it safe, you don't look for those 100% plays, you just take 50-50 team fights. So probably with a gold lead like this, it's more 70-30, but you throw it in the face of Legacy, suddenly coming off 5 long games yesterday against AV, you get a bit in their head coming in, and could look good for Order going into the rest of the best of 5.
Certainly could, but we're not there yet. This game is still not yet done, and we've seen stranger things in League of Legends. However, Sybil no longer wants to be anywhere near FBI.
This is a 4-man push. Swift is actually topside. He has TP, but
yeah, would be 5 seconds too late, and you can see that they're just starting to walk past the Sand Soldiers, looking for those procs.
Once again, they've gone for this 4-1 split with Swiffer on the Swain. 5 stacks, so his ulti does do damage here. He is a big threat. Mimic having a rough time holding him off.
Yeah, you see Claire once again, 1 Q lands. He has to go back to the Death Chamber. Swiffer even does damage to Mimic at this stage of the game.
Not to mention 2v1 as well.
Yeah. Sybil gets slowed down. Will have to hop away, and they're just looking for the double inhibitor.
Flash
Actually, they
Mimic.
grab Mimic again, and the knockup goes towards everyone else. Mimic is so low and will fall down, and now Claire's being tagged up, tries to slide glide away, but a double kill for FBI. Decoy now flashing back towards his fountain. Let's make that a triple, and Order now have the choice of do they chase the Penta or do they just end game 1?
Probably just going to end game 1 as they turn back onto the Nexus. Sybil is doing his best. He might just fall down.
Actually burns the flash away, and you can see FBI will go corral him out of the base. However, turns back around. We've seen FBI chase before, and I do not feel that game 1 of the Gauntlet is the time to do it. 29 minutes in, 14,000 gold is the lead. And if you just hit the damn Nexus turret, boys, you will be able to end the game right here and right now, or to take the 1-0 lead.
Will they? Eventually. There we go. They finally got to take that one down. FBI, as you mentioned, has decided to not hit the Nexus, and it's bit him in the arse a few times, but that game is not the one when you have such a big gold lead. Very clean game out of the Order lineup, I feel like. Early game, fairly safe, barring a few ganks in the mid lane.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the players you would look at to say did their job early was probably Claire as well as Sybil, executing on a couple of early game ganks, trying to have some pressure over that red buff area. But the problem with Skarner is you get so much free time. When you're a Kha'Zix, you farm so slowly that you choose, am I farming or am I ganking?
Yep.
On Skarner, you're kind of like, am I farming, ganking, taking neutral objectives, just tri-laning bottom lane while my bottom camps respawn?
Skarner's like, I'm farming. Is my flash up? Do I have my ulti? No? Okay, like I'm farming quicker than anybody else. And then once you have that button up, your gank is so easy.
And then with the Jhin, with the Kha'Zix, I felt like they put themselves on a clock. They early picked both the champions.
Yeah.
And then Order just came out with a legitimate 4 tank lineup, which we've seen everywhere in the world. I mean, right now, BDD makes a living as a tank top laner that plays mid. Wouldn't be too surprised if we see this eventuate further.
And that's the thing. Like Legacy yesterday, we saw them not having to adapt in the draft phase and not willing to in the first couple of games. I feel like that one, definitely draft pick is a big thing to look at going into game 2. And I feel like they have to change it up because that looked really rough, literally from about like 5 minutes.
So where
onwards.
is the change? Is it the jungle change? Is it the fact that Claire got pinched a little bit? He's playing Azir, something we haven't seen for a long time.
I feel like Swain has kind of come up as this mega power pick and giving it away first pick when you are red side, when you have the option to ban it away, and blue side first pick can just pick that one up. They have the opportunity for the flex you asked me about. They don't even know if it's mid or top, and then answering that with a Kha'Zix, like you mentioned, immediately putting themselves on the clock and kind of putting the ball in Order's court, because they can take whatever you want, because you've already shown kind of what you're going to be picking into by that first phase on Legacy side. So I feel like it needs to be switched up.
Yeah, certainly could be the case. However, it is only game 1. But to get their thoughts on game number 1, let's throw it over to Brandon and Laura.
Thank you very much, guys. And wow, game 1 was a bit of a stomp coming out of Order there. I think Legacy might be needing to change a few things up heading into game number 2. But Juves, I want to start talking about the draft and kind of how confident Order seemed with that draft, because it was only a few weeks ago Sybil gave Order hell on Kha'Zix. But yesterday we saw Avant banning Sybil out a lot, and he didn't get to play Kha'Zix or anything he was particularly comfortable on. But today Order were like, no, it's all right. He gave us hell a few weeks ago, but we'll let him have it today.
Yeah. So I think the Order are confident. They kind of pick bans around the Kha'Zix. Like when you pick like a triple tank comp, because I'm going to call Braum, Skarner, and Sion are tanks. When you pick a triple tank comp, and I can't talk right now, and you have a Swain mid, which is like a pseudo tank in itself, because it's going Abyssal Mask into Zhonya's. There's like literally one target that the Kha'Zix can assassinate on Duskblade Power Spike. And then even then, the Ezreal is going Iceborne Gauntlet. So like then there becomes like pretty much no target for Kha'Zix to assassinate unless he gets like a 3-kill head start snowball. And that's what we saw that game. I think we basically just saw Kha'Zix not being able to snowball the game. Every lane was kind of neutral to even. But then once, I guess, they felt the pressure to make something happen, they decided to just force an Infernal Drake where it wasn't like the ideal fight for them.
Yeah.
Like,
speaking of that Infernal Drake, Order were happy to be patient and wait for Legacy to make a move. And Legacy tried to make proactive plays, but Order were able to read them, as we saw in that fight around the Infernal Dragon. Take us through it, Juve.
So it kind of feels like, it wasn't like panic stations yet here, but it kind of felt like because Order got the first Infernal, they couldn't let the second one go. Decoy was already poked out from earlier in the lane, and then he just pretty much got sucked back into the team, and it's just too split. Like, they knew they wanted to do this Dragon, but we have the mid laner and the top laner coming from one side, we have the jungler who's not a tank on the Dragon, and then they have their bot lane open to be flanked by everyone. It was just like not a really good setup, but I think it stemmed from them like feeling pressured into doing something, whereas like Order feel like this team that they're happy to pick like a scaling top lane, a tank that's just going to be a tank until 50 minutes into the game. They have a jungler who forces you to buy QSS, and that's fine to play into the late game. And then they have an infinitely scaling mid laner. They have Ezreal, who probably like in that composition outscales Jhin, because Jhin doesn't kill tanks very well. And they have a Braum. Like, it feels like, oh yeah, Order's just happy to take the game as long as they need to, because they're confident in themselves as a team to execute like team fights and execute game plans. And it just, yeah, and it was the polar opposite for Legacy, where they're like, we don't have that late game scaling, or we're not going to win in a straight front to back late game. So like, let's get this Infernal. Let's have like a little safety net. But I guess that was like the turning point in which snowballed the game in Order's favor.
You'd think that Legacy would have to change quite a few things coming out of that loss just then, because yesterday they didn't really have to change their draft up that much, and this draft was a bit different from what we saw yesterday. But what would you like to see coming out of the team in game number 2?
Well, I think like the main thing and I guess the boost of morale I would have for them is like they didn't get outclassed. Like they were not just, it wasn't over from laning phase. Like top lane built up a significant CS lead. Mid lane was fine into like a S tier champ, and he didn't have an S tier champ. Bot lane went even. So it's not a matter of mismatching skill in terms of micro ability, because sometimes that happens to be the case. It's more or less like, let's give ourselves the best chance to win. They're a comfortable 1-3-1 team or a 4-1 team. Let's go back to that, because what they picked for me wasn't like what we're used to seeing from Legacy. Like they picked like Azir mid, which I don't think he's had that much success on. I could be wrong, and they picked a Poppy top lane, which doesn't really feel like a Mimic-esque champ. He may be good on the champion itself, like on an individual level, but it doesn't suit what Legacy need. Every time Legacy win games, it's either Mimic split pushing to victory, or him pulling the engagers with like Ornn, him going in. It's hard to engage on Poppy unless you get a really good flank. I want to see him on something like a Scion, where he can just pull the trigger. And that would be like my changes. And get Sybil on something that can engage as well, and just let Claire and let Raid do damage, because they're both had their moments, especially yesterday, where they were playing really well. So like, let's just try and give them the momentum and get them going.
We'll see if Legacy are able to make their comebacks very shortly. But before we do, we asked you guys to send in your drafts for your fantasy team that you would like to see. And we have had a message come in from Ronald, who says his picks are Paprise, Juves, Shock, Tiger, and Rosier. You got Shock too.
I don't care about Shock. Look at me.
You said you wanted Shock.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But this guy, so if you're looking for a coach or an analyst, sign him up immediately. He knows a good jungler when he sees one.
I have nothing to say.
Nothing to say. Sign him. Sign him. And if you didn't put me in your team, you should feel bad about it.
Well, congratulations on your mystery skin, Ronald, and also all the compliments you just got from...
Is the only reason that we had one pop-up because there was only one person who put me in their team?
No. We got a few messages in, but I think there was another Juves.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to go check Twitter now when I come back for next segment. If I don't see at least 50 Juves. Actually, you know what? Spam, if I don't see at least 50 Juves in Twitch chat, I'm going to be upset. I'm getting upset now. I'm getting emotional.
Oh, no.
I need it.
We can't have that. Okay, Juves, have you ever played, well, if you could go back in time, would you play League of Legends in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I'll just alpha all the other kids. I just like alpha them all on the keyboard and mouse.
I would play League of Legends if I could go back in time.
It's been
into high school. And the good news is that the High School LOL Championships is on its way. If you are a student living in Australia or New Zealand, you are invited to compete in weekly games in regional tournaments with the top 2 teams battling it out to be crowned Oceania's high school champion. For all the information on how to enter, head to leaguehighschool.com/esports.
These kids nowadays are real lucky. Back in my day, when I was in school, we didn't even have computers. We barely had internet.
Yeah, same.
That's how old I am. Back in my day, these young'uns are real lucky nowadays. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, on that note, we're going to go to a break. When we get back, though, we're going to have game number 2 between Order and Legacy. Don't go anywhere.
Does get eaten up, but now that's going to be Raid in trouble. Dorima Shuffle will get Tally back underneath the turret, but they've jumped onto Sybil and they're flashing after the jungler. Does manage to get himself over the wall. Tally will fall down. However, now Demonic Ascension used. Mimic gets ripped back in, and that will be a 2-for-1 trade. Swiffer on the back end is taking a lot of damage. Goes into Demonic Ascension, and that is huge from Tally. Double kill now picked up for FBI, and with only 30 seconds left on Baron, potentially with that triple kill, Order can now look at the big purple worm. They flash forward and they absolutely blow up the AD carry, and now Demonic Ascension is there, and Claire will join him in the death chamber. They rip him back in, and that is going to be the turn. Dorima Shuffle there. Sybil now very low, however, Swiffer is so healthy again out of nowhere. We'll be able to get another rip. That's going to be the double kill. And as Sybil goes over the wall, Swiffer flashes after him. That's a triple. Mimic is so low and will fall down, and now Claire's being tagged up. Tries to glide away, but a double kill for FBI. Decoy now flashing back towards his fountain. Let's make that a triple. 14,000 gold is the lead. And if you just hit the damn Nexus turret, boys, you will be able to end the game right here and right now, or to take the 1-0 lead.
Honestly, the first time Mr. Van Garderen, my teacher, when he offered to start an esports club, I was like, what are you on about, bro? Not in my wildest dreams I would imagine an esports club.
A lot of the boys were more distant from me, but now we've gotten much closer. Good environment, quite like a family, I guess.
Put it out there and we asked of the year 9 and 10 students who would like to join in. So of the 900 students that we had at the school, we had about 400 want to apply for League of Legends.
With the introduction of an esports team, I finally have a way to represent my school because I'm not really one to play any other traditional sports.
Clubs being in schools have definitely improved my attendance rate, I essentially guess.
Gaming is perceived still in society as a antisocial behaviour, that it's done by people who just sit by themselves in a dark room, you know, living still with their parents at the age of 30, and they're sitting down there playing games. There's still that stigma, there's still that perception that gaming is an antisocial. For me, the biggest thing is to show parents and everyone, hey, that is not a gamer nowadays. If anything, a gamer is more involved with other people around the world, communicating with them through these games than ever before.
I really think that esports will continue to grow in schools. It's more, maybe most teachers accept the fact that sports come in different kind of areas.
You've got millions of people who are going to be watching the World Finals for League of Legends. So many people. What we did as children isn't what our grandchildren are going to be doing. Life changes, things change. Our students like it, our children like it, and it's something that's going to be coming into schools.